Welcome! Long before this area was known as Ontario, it was part of New France. The French called their colony Canada, likely from the Huron-Iroquois word Kanata. That means settlement or village. France sent people to live here. The French were not the only ones interested in these lands. The British also wanted to control them. The British won. They split New France into Upper Canada and Lower Canada. People used to say, the sun never set over the British Empire. That's because it was so big. Britain wanted more people to move to Upper Canada. One of these reasons was to help keep Upper and Lower Canada under British rule. Meanwhile, in the 13 British colonies south of here, settlers were becoming angry. They didn't want to be a British colony anymore. In 1775, they led a revolution. They fought to be their own country and make their own decisions. In 1783, the Americans won, and the United States of America became a country of its own. Britain only had Canada left. People who were loyal to the British found it hard to stay in the United States. Thousands of black people fought for the British to put down the revolution. Some were free black people, but many were enslaved. They knew there was little hope of freedom if the British lost. They hoped to build homes of their own and live freely under British rule. The British offered their supporters free land in Upper Canada. Many fled the United States to start over in Canada. They became known as United Empire Loyalists. Many black Americans were scared that if they stayed in the United States, they would remain enslaved. They were also offered land for their loyalty. Richard Pierpont was a British Loyalist soldier. He earned land fighting for the British. He was also an early leader in Upper Canada's black community. Farmland had to be cleared. Houses had to be built. Often, black settlers did not get help from their neighbors. Instead, they hired themselves out to work on other people's land. Richard Pierpont noticed early on that things were not equal in Upper Canada. Black settlers were given smaller pieces of land far away from each other. He wanted to see communities of black people living together, helping one another. Richard dreamed of creating a community for black settlers. In 1812, Richard helped to create an all-black militia to defend Upper Canada against the Americans. It was called the Colored Corps. Richard and others joined the Corps. Even though they fought for the British, Richard realized that black settlers were still being treated differently. Between 1815 and 1865, many enslaved black Americans came to Upper Canada through the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a secret group of people and safe places. It was not a real railroad. It was a series of trails and code words to help people reach the north without being caught. Whether alone or with a conductor, the journey was dangerous. Some black settlers, like George Chapman, settled in Pickering after finding freedom in Upper Canada. It was finally here. Slavery was no more in Upper Canada. On August 1st, 1834, the Slavery Abolition Act took effect. Just as things were getting better, settlers here grew upset with British rule, just as the Americans had years before. The Upper Canada government was nicknamed the Family Compact. They controlled the banks, the laws, the church, the schools, the mail, and all the tax money. The people had no say in government decisions. The Family Compact didn't want a democracy. A democracy is when everyone has a say. At this time, people who lived outside of the cities felt like they had no voice in the government at all. A man named William Lyon Mackenzie felt that the government needed to change. He traveled to many different towns looking for support. Many men agreed with him. Peter Matthews, a Pickering farmer, led a group of men to Montgomery's tavern to rebel. The rebellion happened on December 7, 1837. A group of Loyalists broke up the rebels at Montgomery's tavern. The Black militia played a big role in stopping the rebellion. After the rebellion of 1837, Richard Pierpont's dream of a black settlement came true. Buxton, Dawn, Garifraxa, and Chatham all became important sites of black settlement. The rebellions in both Upper and Lower Canada led to the Durham Report. That report recommended that Upper and Lower Canada be united into one colony, the Province of Canada. This report laid the foundation for the democracy we enjoy today.